Welcome back to the We Are Here podcast. I'm Paul.
And I'm Tony.
And we're joined today by the Streator ramp builders, two of them anyway. Ed Davis and Art Johnson are here with us today. This was a blast of a conversation.
It was. I had a total blast. I'm not in this particular podcast. I was behind the scenes because we had two guests, and I had to give them my seat, which I was more than happy to do because it was awesome.
It was such a great conversation. The Streator ramp builders have been around for over 35 years. They've built thousands of ramps, literally thousands of ramps for people of all ages with mobility issues in and around the Streator area who struggle with mobility to move freely within and out of their homes. And Art and Ed just did an amazing job sharing their story and their heart for helping people in need. And so it was just such a great conversation.
It was. I hope you guys can feel and hear the heart that's behind this organization and this group of guys that are just trying to help people.
Yeah.
Just trying to help people. So we're not going to say any more. Sit back, relax, enjoy this podcast.
Welcome back to the We Are Here podcast. We're here today with the Streator, some of the Streator ramp builders, two of the Streator ramp builders. Art Johnson and Ed Davis are here with us today, and we're excited to have you guys here with us to hear your story, but also we were just talking a little bit before we started recording about how there's so much good that's happening in our town, and one of those great things that we see is what the ramp builders have been doing for over 35 years. It's been 36 years. I think somebody told me.
36 years last October.
Yeah, that's incredible. And so so we're going to talk a little bit about what the Streator ramp builders do, how they were founded, and what the mission is there. But I want to start just with some introductions for you guys personally. I don't know if we should flip a coin or something to see who goes first.
We don't care.
No.
Art, how about you? Can I start with you? Do you
Sure.
mind sharing a little bit? Just tell us who you are, where you're from. I know you're from Streator native, but tell us a little bit about who you are and growing up in Streator.
All right. Art Johnson. I've lived in Streator all my life. I went to Woodland High School. I farmed for 35 years. Then I worked at Vactor. Retired from Vactor. And I still have 3 other jobs that I do. And Streator Ramp Builders is one of the main ones. So Streator has always been a great town. It started out as a smaller, mainly I would consider a farm town.
Yeah.
And the industry has had its ups and downs. We have a lot of big industry, good industry right now. I know Owens has lost a lot of people. Thatcher's went down. Hospital went down. But we have a lot of new ones. We have Cora's, Vactor Manufacturing, U.S. Truck Bodies, a lot of new companies coming in that we're real happy for.
Yeah.
Ed, you got anything?
Tell us a little
Well,
about yourself, Ed.
I'm a lifelong Streator resident too. I'm a Streator High School graduate, but yeah, I grew up in Streator, and I always tell people when they ask about my growing up years, there was never ever a time when you couldn't find work if you wanted to work. I mean, like Art said, back in the day, there was more industry and more businesses, and Main Street was just, everything was centered around downtown. It was a terrific community to grow up in. Still is a terrific community. It's just we're like a lot of other towns, we've lost a lot of basically industry, which is the lifeblood. But no, Streator, I would never live anyplace else. I come from a big family, 9 kids, and I only had my brother and I that stayed in Streator. No regrets, but I know my family, anytime they have an opportunity to come back and visit, they look forward to it. So Streator was a wonderful town to grow up in. I retired from Vactor like Art did. It's still a thriving business, a good place to work. So no, Streator it's my hometown, and I'll always consider it that, and nothing different. So
That's great. Tell us a little bit about your families. I mean, so you said some of them moved away, but kids, grandkids. I went to school with Art with your sons.
Yes.
At Woodland. But tell us a little bit about the family. What do they? are they close by? Do you get to spend much time? Do they love Streator? What do you love to do with your
Okay,
families around town?
My oldest son, Scott, he lives up in Chicago. He's a funeral director. My next oldest daughter, she lives in Streator. She lives next door to me, almost next door to me.
Yeah.
And her husband works for Quantix. It used to be Lucky Trucking,
Yeah.
Quantix right now. And she works for the hospital in Pontiac. My next oldest son, Sean, works at Vactor in Streator. And my youngest son lives in Bloomington. He works for State Farm.
Yeah.
I have, my daughter has 4 kids, Sean has 1, and Adam has 1.
That's great. Yeah. Ed, how about you? Kids, grandkids, close by?
Well, I've
or-
got 5 children. They all live in LaSalle, Peru. 2 in LaSalle, 3 in Peru. The oldest one is self-employed, and I've got a son that's a UPS driver. I have a son that is a correctional officer. I have a daughter that's an occupational therapist, and I have a daughter who is a ICU nurse up in Morris. My wife, Karen, worked for her brother-in-law. He's a Thrivent insurance agent here in town, and she retired from him. All of my brothers and sisters, like I say, I'm the youngest of 9. I have 3 brothers that have passed on, but they all moved on, and you know, they made a good life for themselves. My oldest brother is going to be 93 this year.
Wow.
And I have a brother that'll be 90 in February, coming up here in another week. So anyhow, yeah, they all moved on, and like I say, I chose to stay. I had opportunities to leave, and I came back, and I'm happy I did. Like I say, my brothers and sisters all made a good life for themselves, so but they all enjoy coming back to Streator.
Yeah.
So
It's always good to come home.
Yeah.
You know, and, you know, we experienced that. I've said that several times on the podcast. That my wife and I, we moved away for 10 years or so, but when we came back, this has always been home. And, you know, we're here, you know, we're kind of that younger generation, and we're here, our parents are all here. We're able to have our kids grow up with their grandparents, which is, you know, just.
well, that's
it's
another thing. I
incredible,
mean,
so.
my children grew up knowing their grandparents and
Yeah.
great grandparents, which was something because of the age difference in my brothers and sisters and I. Most of us never knew a grandparent, so the fact that they got to grow up and have grandparents and become close to them, that was a plus. But like I say, I never had a reason to leave Streator, and I'm happy
Yeah.
I stayed. So
Yeah, it really is a plus to have your kids, grandkids in their lives. We really enjoy that. So,
I'd like to.
Oh, go ahead.
excuse me.
Go ahead.
I'd like to put in a plug for Central. My
Yeah.
grandparents grew up in this church. My aunt and uncle, Bud Allen and Nancy Allen.
Absolutely.
Nancy is still alive, and they grew up in this church. My parents, Bonnie and Henry, and they brought us all the kids up in this church.
Yeah.
I was baptized at Central Church in Park and
Yeah,
we had
Park and
the
Bridge,
building at
yeah.
Park and Bridge, and my uncle Bud Allen, he was instrumental in building this church, and I can remember, I still have pictures of I hauled all the lumber from the railroad station down here in Streator
Yeah.
out to this location for the building.
Yeah.
So associated with the church for
Yeah.
for a long time.
Yep. 1964. Yeah. What is that? You know, when the original building was built here.
Right.
And yeah. So yeah, this building was literally built by the hands of that generation.
It
It's
was.
just amazing.
And that's
Yeah.
another plus for me. I mean, I'm a member of St. Paul's Lutheran here in Streator,
Yeah.
but it's the church that I was born into, baptized, confirmed, married. You know, the good Lord willing, when I pass, I can be there. But that's a plus of staying in one place, is you have roots with wherever you choose to congregate. You have roots, and you know it means a lot that you can stay connected to something.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you guys for sharing that. Yeah. That's really the heart of what we're trying to get at is growing where you're planted, you know, and when you put down roots somewhere, you build up that community, and you also build up your own life along with that community. And it's incredible to have that church, to have the service organizations, the jobs, whether it's, being a farmer or working in a factory or whatever community you find, it's just finding that community and improving that so that you and your family, you also improve along with it. So,
Yeah.
And I don't want to forget my wife, Sandy.
sure, absolutely. We don't want to forget
Make
Sandy.
sure I get her in this. So.
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys so much for sharing your stories. And so let's talk about what you remember from Streator in the past. What do you cherish from the past, and how has it changed? We talked a little bit about the industry changing. Let's talk about just maybe like what are some things that you remember that aren't around anymore, that's changed, but that you cherish. But what are also some things that that we have gained in your lifetime that you really enjoy as well?
Well, like I said before, I mean, in my growing up years in art, I'm sure we're not that different in age, but everything was centered on Main Street.
Yeah.
And I mean, every block on Main Street, you could find someplace to eat. They had multiple, the retail businesses, multiple menswear stores and women's and shoe stores. And I saw a list, I don't know, one time of the barber shops in Streator. My goodness, there must have been 20. Matter of fact, they had a barber's union.
Yeah.
I mean, they had so many barber shops, they had a barber's union.
incredible.
Hardware stores. I mean, when you travel in Streator now, almost everything is out north.
Yeah.
That wasn't like that. My first job in high school was at Gauchi's Corner, which they just tore down. But when I worked out there, I was 16 years old, and other than a grocery store, and they had a International Harvester dealership that had a second shift in their shop, there was nothing out there.
Yeah.
I mean, you could drive from Main Street to out north and maybe 2 or 3 stores.
Yeah.
Not very many, but everything on Friday nights, I mean, it's kind of a joke, but if you jaywalked, it was two-way traffic, you took a chance of getting run over.
Yeah.
And jobs were plentiful.
Yeah.
I mean, gas stations, anything. I mean, jobs were plentiful, and young people could find jobs. If you quit your job in the morning, if you wanted to, you could probably have a job in the afternoon.
Yeah.
We had a brick yard, a tile yard, the bottle factories. I don't know, everything.
Yeah. How about you, Art? What do you remember from the past that you kind of cherish and
I
it's
can
changed,
remember
so.
when Streator had the big flood.
Oh,
That-
yeah.
That was before they built the dike. And the same year, we used to had one of the biggest hardware stores in town, or in the location, was Williams Hardware. And I remember when that blew up and caught fire.
Oh, wow.
And it was downtown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as far as what's changed to today, so you talked about the downtown area. That's starting to kind of come back.
It is.
We're starting to see, the facade grants are starting to transform some of that area. I don't know. Everybody's kind of speculating what's going to go in at Gauchi's Corner, but they're going to build something there. Probably a rental property or something like that that'll be filled by a business. But so as far as those changes, what do you see now that you think is a positive for the town? That's some things that have changed for the better in your lifetimes that you've seen take place.
Well, like I say, I mean, we don't have the big businesses like we used to have. Vactor's the biggest in Streator now. But, you have to adapt with the times. Like you just said, I mean, Main Street, as far as the facades, yeah, they are, improving the downtown. But the volunteerism in this town is just, you don't hear about a lot of it, maybe, I don't know. But the volunteerism in this town is just amazing.
Yeah.
When you look at, like, our 4th of July celebration and our, when they light up the city park, I mean, that's all volunteers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And because we don't have the big factories with the high numbers of employment anymore, doesn't mean that Streator can't still be a thriving town.
Yeah.
You just have to change with the times a little bit.
Yeah.
But the people who have taken the time to invest, in opening a business in this town, and we as a community, we need to support them people. As our group alone, we have a lumberyard here in town, and that's who we buy our material from. But, because we don't have the bigger box stores like that, doesn't mean we shouldn't support our town.
Yeah.
And support the businesses that are here.
Yeah. Yeah, you mentioned, and it's been mentioned before, there's not a lot that you can't get in Streator. You know, if you need it, you can probably get it here.
Yep.
It's just kind of whether you know where to look for it. I think
That's
a
right.
lot of times.
And whether you chose to shop here or not.
Sure, yeah. Whether
Yeah.
you decide to stay local or not.
And some of the businesses that are still in business in this town have been here for a
Yeah,
lifetime.
yeah,
So,
absolutely.
you know, they're not just startups.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for that perspective.
Another big change, which is not good for me, is the technology.
Oh,
Yeah,
You know, with the cell phones, every kid has a cell phone in
we were
his
talking
face.
about that earlier. Yeah,
The technology with automobiles, with farm equipment.
Yeah.
You know, you have to have a computer in your hand in order to be able to operate
Yeah.
half of the stuff.
Well, that was another thing. I mean, our car dealers in this town, if you think of all the different brands of cars that are made, and we had a dealership for each brand.
yeah,
How many did we have in town? I mean, we must have had at least 6, 8 different car dealerships,
Yeah.
and we had used car lots
Yeah.
that sold used cars.
yeah,
So, and then people stayed in town.
yeah.
And now you go to these big dealers who offer 6, 7 different, you know, brands of cars.
Yeah.
So it's a big change.
Well, the beauty of, you're talking about technology. The beauty of having, I think, multiple generations together. We were talking about this earlier. That, you know, if you don't understand something, then you have your grandkids, or you have, you know, or maybe younger generations. And so I feel like, and maybe do you guys feel like, I guess would be the question, do you feel like we're all just kind of figuring that all out together? And the more we come together, as far as generations come together, I think the more we can learn the wisdom of past generations and how to live our lives, and you know, maybe some younger generations can can help share some of that information about technology, and you know, because they were raised in it, they were born into it.
Well, the kids today, I mean, when they go to school, I live up by the high school here in town, and when you watch these kids walk in school, they don't carry books.
Yeah.
I mean,
They got a laptop.
yeah, they got laptops, and I guess that's good. I mean, you know, that's how they've grown up, and they know how to use them.
Sure.
If I was in school today, I don't think I'd probably be able to do it. But
The different time, and the amazing thing is, and I'll say this, and then we'll kind of get into what the ramp builders are and what you guys do. But the amazing thing to me is, you know, thinking about your generation, and even, you know, my parents' generation. You know, I think seeing, you guys have seen it all. You've seen the world change so much, and yet, like you said, Ed, it's that adapting and overcoming, and it's that learning new ways and finding a way to live in the world that you have today. And so, to me, that's incredible. You know, I mean, I hope when I'm older and when I'm retirement age or whatever, that my kids can say, well, you know, he figured it out. You know, that you know, it's a very different world from when I was even a kid. I can't imagine from when.
But chances are, by the time you retire, it's going to change even more.
Yeah, I bet
You know,
it will. 'Cause
you'll be
it's
talking like we are now.
it's speeding up. Yeah, it gets faster and faster. So let's talk about the ramp builders. So how did the Streator ramp builders get started? So 36 years ago, last October. What's the story behind it? Tell us a little bit about the ramp builders. What's the
Well,
mission? What's the purpose behind?
The gentleman that started it, his name was Arnold Park, and he was married to my cousin, and he was a Lutheran Brotherhood insurance agent, and they are no longer. They combined with the other Lutheran insurance agency, Aid Association for Lutherans. They're now Thrivent. But anyhow, he was a Lutheran Brotherhood insurance agent, and somebody one time asked him if he could get some people together. They needed access to their house with a ramp, and he didn't start off with very many, just maybe a handful. One of them was his son, and they built a ramp. And that's kind of where it took off from. Originally, they did call themselves the Lutheran Brotherhood Ramp Builders, just a tag that got hung on them, I guess.
Yeah.
But anyhow, he started with a group of men from St. Paul's, which is where he's a member and I'm a member. But anyhow, over the years, you know, and we're the same way right now. I mean, all of us are getting up in years. So as people moved out, other people moved in. We're all retirees. They always were. And I tell everybody now, you know, they were never exclusively a Lutheran group, but that's just how he got started.
Yeah.
And I just tell everybody now, we're non-denominational. We don't turn anybody down that wants to
Yeah.
work. But, you know, it went on from there. Arnold, I can tell you right now, he kept it going for 25 years before I got involved with it. And then as he got up in years and dementia started to set in and he couldn't do it anymore, I still had 1 year left to work before I retired, so I took over. And then we've grown from there. But anyhow, he kept it going, and I tell people all the time, on a wing and a prayer, but he did.
Yeah.
And people supported him, and
Yeah.
people did support him. I mean, monetarily and otherwise.
Yeah.
And so here we are 36 years later. I've been with him, I guess, since 2014. That's 10 or 11 years. And we've gotten, every year we seem to pick up maybe 1 or 2 new guys, but we've gotten up to about 21 guys.
Okay.
The oldest one, he just turned 80 in November.
Wow.
And he's still working with us.
That's incredible.
And we have a guy that's going to be 78 here next month. Hart and I, half the guys are over 70 years old.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, we're always looking for younger people.
Yeah.
We go out, and when we work, we don't try to go out with any less than at least 8 to 10 guys.
Okay.
Simply because there's some physical lifting that needs
Sure.
to be done. But, we can go out with 15, 16 guys. But it's like Art said earlier, it's word of mouth. We did become a 501c3 nonprofit, I think back in 16, and that was a big jump for us because, when people contribute to a nonprofit, obviously it's tax deductible. But, I don't know. We cover a 25-mile radius. We used to go farther, but we just can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
We got so much. Last year was a record year for us. We built 78 ramps.
That's incredible.
And there was ramps that we didn't build.
Wow.
If we would have built everything last year that we got phone calls for, geez, we probably could have built 90, 95 ramps.
Wow.
I don't know
That's
that
amazing.
physically we could have done it
Yeah.
because you're dealing with hot weather in the summer
Yeah.
and right now, we don't work when it's real cold. We have
Yeah.
worked in cold weather though, but it's word of mouth. But we get donations from Thrivent. My brother-in-law is the Thrivent insurance agent, and my wife worked for him. That's probably our biggest contributor. But we get money from
Taste of Town. Give us,
Oh, yeah,
give us a
Taste
big
of Town.
start.
That was a fundraiser that the Community Credit Union here in town did for a lot of years. And we were a part of that twice. And that's really what pushed us over the top
Yeah.
financially. And, but then we get money from Exelon. We have retirees that work with us from out at Exelon.
Yeah.
The Elks here in town, Obie, the head of the Elks, he gets us money. The labor unions have given us money this year. There's 2 groups in LaSalle and Spring Valley. Illinois Valley Center for Independent Living and Alternatives. They pay for a lot of ramps. And what we do, I don't want anybody to get the impression that we give these ramps away because we don't.
Yeah, sure.
We don't. But there are times when people don't have money that, yes, we don't charge them for the ramp if they can't pay for it.
Yeah.
What we tell people is we ask them to pay for the material to the best of their ability, but we also don't turn anybody down based on your ability to pay or not.
Yeah.
So we don't turn anybody down, but we do ask people to pay. And these other organizations, I got a long list of them if I could think of them all.
If you
that,
if you want to name any names,
that contribute
yeah,
money to
sure.
us, and
We have some private donors that
Oh, yeah.
want to
Yeah.
remain anonymous.
Sure, absolutely.
right. And I would
Absolutely.
mention his name, but he's asked us not to.
That's fine. I don't want.
But I will tell you, he is a major donor.
Yeah.
And he is committed to continuing to donate
Well,
to us.
thank you, whoever you are. So,
Streator, yeah.
Well,
yeah.
and there are people like that. I mean, they want to contribite to it,
Sure.
but they don't want the recognition.
Yeah.
And we have, we take our ramps back down when they're no longer needed, and we use them over. RP Lumber here in Streator, we buy our material there, and because we store our material right now at a local business next door who generously stepped up for us. We had to move when we the place where we stored our material before the gentleman passed away. So anyhow, this other gentleman right next door, and he allows us to be there. So RP Lumber doesn't charge us for delivery. We have a place to get inside when we want to work. Like I say, I mean, we couldn't do it without people, but there are some people. There was a lady one time that she gave us $25, but it's all she had.
Yeah.
But, I took it because, and excuse me, I get emotional
No,
when I
it's
talk
okay.
about this, but people have dignity,
Yeah.
and you don't want to take that away.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about the need. So you see people in need all the time with mobility issues, and really, you said it's about people. It's about helping people, and so just describe. And you don't have to name any names or anything like that, but or talk about anybody specifically. But who are the people that you're helping? Just help our audience understand that this is the need that the ramp builders are meeting, I guess.
There's a need for, everybody thinks we do just elderly. That's not the case. We
Right.
do a lot of elderly, but we also help, there's kids that we built one in Peru for a girl who got hit by a car.
Yeah.
She needed a ramp. We have kids that are handicapped, cerebral palsy, and different situations like that. We had one in Pontiac that we built that was
She was born to a drug-addicted mother.
yeah.
And so from the time she came out of the womb, she was drug addicted.
Yeah.
And then she got adopted by an elderly couple, and they gave her a home.
Wow.
Yeah, we built one in Ottawa for a young man that, when we built the ramp, he had brain cancer, and he died about 3 weeks after we put it up. So
We've built ramps for people who lived one day. They had to have a ramp before they could come home.
Yeah.
The ramp was up one day.
Wow.
Yeah,
And
we
we've
built
had
one in-
ramps that have been there for 15 years.
Yeah.
Well, the one in Peru that he's talking about, the lady, she wanted to die at home. And so we put the ramp up, and a half an hour after we got done, she came home, and she died within a day or two.
Wow.
But she got to come home.
Wow.
So,
That's
Yeah.
incredible. And so there's stories behind all of these.
Well, there's a story behind every one of
single
them.
one of them.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it just the impact that mobility has on someone's life and being able to get into your own home, because there's, like you said earlier, there is nowhere like home. There's nowhere like home. And some people, you're giving people that dignity.
We built one for a lady, and this has happened several times. She was just crying. She was so happy.
Yeah.
yeah.
And she said, "I haven't been out of my house in months."
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And you guys,
Gave
gave
her
me that
freedom back.
opportunity.
Yeah.
So it's,
Yeah.
it's a very, very, very gratifying.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's people who can't go home, but there's also people who can't get out of their
Yes.
house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
it works both ways.
Sure.
And there are people, if they're in rehab or a nursing home, they won't let them go home until they can get into their
Yeah.
house.
Well, and you guys, that kind of brings up a good point. You guys have a great relationship, I believe, with the nursing homes, with like OSF and like the Center for Health and places like that. The
They've
city,
got
of
us on
course, as
speed
well.
dial.
Yeah, I'm sure they do. But that's where a lot of these connections come from. Is it's a situation where someone is in a rehab center or in the hospital or something like that, and they aren't able to come home, and so. So it's not just, it's a part of a bigger system, I guess, is what I'm trying to say, is that it takes that network of people working together. Tony said before, it takes community to build a community, right? And so it's people working together to make people's lives better. And
Well, our
improve their
reward
situation.
isn't, we don't get paid as ramp builders, we're volunteers. But the reward isn't what you get paid anyhow.
Yeah,
The reward is helping people.
absolutely. Well, thank you guys for
When the-
sharing that. Yeah.
I will say, when the ramp builder first started, it might take a week to build a ramp.
Yeah.
Gentlemen would come out with their trucks and load it up with lumber and come out and build a ramp at a certain home
Yeah.
or establishment, and it might take them a week to build a ramp. Today, we've kind of streamlined our efforts. We pre-build ramp sections
Oh, okay.
and what we call turnarounds. And so when we go to a house to build a ramp, normally we can build one, in a half a day.
Really.
We
Wow.
put up 60-foot ramps in 3 hours before.
Wow, that's incredible. And these are all I've seen them before. So I have a family member who you guys have built one for, and so they're sturdy built. They're safe. There's a lot of safety kind of, I don't know if it's called
Well, they're all
safety
built to
features
code.
or yeah,
They're all
built to
built to
code, ADA ADA code and all that stuff or whatever you want to say, however you want to say that. And they last, like you said, they could last 15 years or more. They could last easily.
And we, if they need repair, we'll come back and repair them.
Yeah.
If they need replaced,
Yeah.
if they're up that long, we'll come back and
And they
replace.
don't get charged for that.
So walk us through the process, kind of. So you guys get the call, obviously, and so what does it take to build a ramp? Can you just kind of sum that up for us?
Well, the
in
first
half
thing
a
we got to
day
do
or
is we got to go out and
whatever it
measure, because you have to know how much ramp they need.
takes? Yeah.
And then every ramp is not, they're all built the same, but they're not all laid out the same depending on the lay of the land.
Sure.
And so that's how we get started. And then we schedule it. We try to work maybe no more than 2 days a week. I've always told the guys from day one, I don't ever want them to make it a job,
Yeah.
because we're volunteers. So what we do is we only work when we have enough people, and like I say, a couple days a week. But if you've ever been out and watched the guys build a ramp, I mean, it is a social event, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I bet.
And we go to lunch or breakfast, depending, when we're done, and that's another big part of it. But no, that's how we get started. We measure a ramp, and then we meet where we keep all of our material, and we load it up wherever we're going. And we've done it before, where if it's a small enough ramp, we can build 2 of them in a day.
Oh, wow.
It's not a big deal. And normally we're done before noon. So. But that's how you get started. But everybody, you'd have to see the guys. Art will tell you. You'd have to see the guys when you get to a job site. Everybody has, not to say that they have a specific job, because everybody does everything. But when you get to a job site, it's like a beehive.
Yeah.
You unload your trailers, you unload your tools, and there's always a starting point up at the house, and 2 or 3 guys go up there and they get started, and pretty soon it's just all done.
Wow.
I mean, it doesn't take long.
Yeah.
I bet it's amazing to watch. It's just like you said, like a hill.
We'll
of
have to
ants
let
or
you know
something
the
like
next
that, or a
next
beehive.
one we build that,
Yeah.
that we're close enough by. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we've built them outside, we've built them inside garages.
Right.
Yeah.
We built them on the front of the house, on the back of the house.
Right.
We've had some people who didn't want us to tear out their rose bushes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
said we have no other choice, so they
Yeah.
decided they didn't want to ramp that bad.
Oh,
Most
wow.
people are very
Accommodating.
accommodating and understanding. There are only, you only have so much room to work with most of the time. So
And the people who volunteer come from all walks of life.
Oh,
and
yeah.
everybody, I don't think we've ever had an argument. Everybody gets along.
Yeah.
Yep.
Sometimes we get there, we have a plan, and we have to change the plan.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's not a problem.
Sure.
Everybody works together. It's just a great camaraderie
Yeah.
between all these people.
we've had people say, "Well, you're that group of carpenters," and that's what we laugh at. I don't think we got a carpenter in the group.
Really? There's
No.
not a single carpenter.
There
I don't
is.
think.
They probably were. Is
Yeah.
there?
Fred.
Fred,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You got one. One.
But
of them
other
all,
than
yeah.
that, no. I mean,
They're factory workers, they're
Yeah.
farmers, they're truck drivers. They
mailmen.
come from all walks of life.
Sure.
Oh yeah.
And everybody knows what they're doing. We get along great.
Yeah.
It's just a lot of fun.
Bet there's a lot of jokes going on and a lot of ribbing each other.
Yes, there is.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Can't tell you all the jokes.
Yeah, I was gonna say probably don't want to mention some of them here.
But you know what? They just all enjoy getting together, and everybody. We all have other agendas during the year, vacations and stuff. So, like I say, we work with however many guys we got. But if we had a whole crew, we'd have 21 guys.
Oh wow.
So
And
That's-
Ed is our main leader, I would say. And when he's not there, he goes up to Wisconsin a lot in the summertime. We have other people that
Oh,
are
yeah.
willing to step up and,
Sure.
and go out and measure ramps
Sure,
and
sure.
take over.
That's great. Yeah.
We have people that are willing to drive and pull our trailers.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's what makes it sustainable. That it doesn't just rely on one person. It doesn't.
No.
You all know the job.
Oh,
you all
no.
know the process.
there's plenty of people who can take over.
Yeah.
It's one big happy group.
That's amazing. That's absolutely amazing. So as far as we talked about the need for mobility. The reason I asked this question, I'll kind of give it with a caveat. So I saw some statistics recently about the increase in mobility issues. The increase in aging, of course, leads to more mobility issues. And of course, you said you don't only build ramps for the elderly, but obviously it seems like there's an increased need. That the need for ramps and for mobility aids keeps increasing.
We built a ramp last year. Well, just two of them that I'll mention. We mentioned the age gap. We built one last year for a 5-year-old girl.
Oh, wow.
Who was handicapped and had to stay at home. And maybe even the same week, it doesn't matter. We built one. Matter of fact, not the same day we built for the little girl, but there was one day last year, we built a ramp for a 93-year-old man that was still in his house, and we left his house, and we went to South Streator and built one for a 98-year-old lady who was still living at home. They were in the same day.
So literally every age.
Oh, yeah.
Every age. I guess the question is, do you guys see that increase with average age getting older, population getting older?
Yeah.
People taking care of their parents more, I guess, is probably part of that too. So do you guys see that?
And
playing
people like
out
to
locally?
People like to stay at home and live their final days at home.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
we don't like to, take that away from anybody.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I say. I mean, people have dignity and they have pride. That's two things you don't want to take away from people.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and thank you guys for the work that you do and the spirit that you put into it and the fun that you have while you're doing it. That's so important, and it really does speak to the health of your group and to the camaraderie and to the volunteerism. So just to kind of summarize some things. So where would you send somebody if they needed the help that you guys give, obviously, but what's the kind of the first step? How can people get the help that they need when it comes to these mobility issues? You guys said earlier you don't advertise your number.
No.
There's no publicity that goes into this. It's all word of mouth. So if someone's saying, well, I'm stuck in my home, or I am, maybe somebody's a family member of somebody who has an issue and they can't get back into their home, where do they start? Who do they talk to? What's the start of the process?
Well, one of the ways is people know a lot of the ramp builders, so they'll contact myself or Ed or
anybody in the group.
Anybody in the group, and then we get together and go from there.
Okay.
The hospitals and nursing homes.
Oh yeah, OSF, all of the nursing homes. Like I say, the two organizations in Spring Valley and LaSalle, Ivasil, and Alternatives. The cities. We don't need permits except for in a couple of different towns we work in. Mm-hmm. Never get charged for our permits, but I mean, those people know, they have our contact number. Most of it is word of mouth, though. I mean, like you said, they know somebody who's had one. Yeah. Or my brother-in-law, like I say, is the thriving agent here in town. He gets a lot of phone calls. I think every city around has got our number.
I think so.
LaSalle, Peru, Ottawa, Streator, Marseilles, Seneca, Pontiac, Monunk. They've all got our number. Yeah.
Sheridan.
Yeah, Sheridan. We did go to Sheridan. That's farther than we normally go. We made an exception.
Yeah.
And we have made exceptions. Anytime I go out or we go out and measure a ramp, we have a business card that I give to people.
Sure.
And they keep that. I don't know. After 36 years, I can't imagine anybody who doesn't know how to get hold of us.
And I don't know that the need is that much greater, but I think there's always been a need there. Mm-hmm. But now it's coming out because they know, well, this person has a ramp. I need a ramp too.
Well, that's a good point. Maybe the help is more readily available. I don't know. Maybe that's a better way to.
Well, and I get phone calls all the time. Family members say you built one for another family member or a neighbor, or It's not funny. It really isn't. We built one in LaSalle, and when we went over to build it the first time, the neighbor lady had called us and set it up because her neighbor needed a ramp, but she failed to tell the neighbor lady's husband.
Oh.
And we got there, and she had a handrail on the porch, and we were just getting ready to cut it off, and he came out and didn't know nothing about it, and he wouldn't let us build the ramp.
Oh, wow.
So it was 2 or 3 years after that. I think we built it last year or the year before. anyhow, it was 2 or 3 years later, they called back and this lady was still there and they said, well, she needs the ramp. And I said, well, how about her husband? And they said, well, her husband passed away. You can come build a ramp now.
Yeah.
But I mean, and that's an exception. It is. I don't think we've been to too many places where they just absolutely wouldn't let.
Yeah,
I had a phone call yesterday from a gentleman in Ottawa, or no, LaSalle. And I had quoted him a price on a ramp last fall. And I was, because I'm getting ready to go out and measure again. And I called, do you still want it? And he said, no. He said, I don't have the money. Matter of fact, the one we built the last one we built in December.
Okay.
That lady wasn't gonna let us build it because she didn't have the money. And it's the same thing I've always told him, and I told him. And I put him in contact with these agencies that could help him, but I just told him, I said, I don't ever want anybody to tell me that they can't have a ramp because they can't pay for it,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Absolutely.
And we haven't always been in this situation, but we
No,
are now. And
oh,
so,
no,
You know, we never want to turn anybody down.
no.
Yeah.
From when I started with the group to now, there was a time when we couldn't build one for somebody if they couldn't pay. We just didn't have the resources. But God's blessed us. And so now we can. But I always tell people, I don't want them to say no based on their ability to pay. So,
Very good. Well, thank you guys so much. So just some numbers real quick. I know it's, so when this is released, it'll be a couple months down the road, but Ed, we talked, and I think you said you already have a running list.
you don't want to see my list
So-
for this year.
So you said, remind me, what was the number last year?
78.
Okay, 78 last year. So do you guys have any idea, like a rough estimate, how many ramps the ramp builders have built in 36 years? Any?
Thousands, I can tell you that.
Yeah.
Arnold was a record keeper,
Yeah.
and I've got his records at home, and if I went back and looked at them all, it's thousands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah,
have.
that's
I
that's
don't have-
okay. I mean, we'll just go with thousands. I mean, that's incredible. Yeah, just absolutely amazing.
My list for this year is the biggest I've ever had
You
at the
mentioned that,
start of the
yeah.
year.
Yeah,
We always have a carryover, maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 ramps. If everybody that I measure the ramps for within the next week or so confirm that they want a ramp, we'll probably have at least 20 to get started for this year.
wow, that's incredible.
That's just starting. That's
Yeah.
without anybody ever
Right.
contacting us the rest of
No,
the year.
no.
Absolutely.
And we haven't built our first one yet this year. So.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the weather hasn't really been.
Now,
real
last year
cooperative
we
with you
started
guys.
in February,
Right.
Yeah.
but it all depends on the
Yeah.
weather.
Right.
Let's see how this year goes.
Yep.
We're too old to work in the cold.
And you can't work in the mud.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
you
You
know.
get your tools all messy. The
Right.
ramp itself gets all messy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. You don't want to make mess in people's houses. Absolutely. So just to kind of finish things up, so how can people get involved and support what the ramp builders do? Obviously we talked about how to, talk to your healthcare provider, talk to the city that you live in. They've got these guys' number. But if somebody wants to help or they want to support you guys, how can they do that?
Well, yeah, I can give you a card before we leave.
Sure.
And that's our contact point.
Yeah.
Like Art said, it isn't just me. I mean, my name is on the card because somebody's name's got to be on there.
Yeah.
And my phone number. And we don't have an office.
Yeah.
I mean, I just take care of things from home. But, most of the people, all of the ramp builders know somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a contact point, all they got to do. And again, I mean, all of your medical facilities, your city offices, they all have a way to get a hold of us. So basically, it is just word of mouth.
Yeah.
But the places that, like I say, I joked about them having us on speed dial, but I wouldn't be a bit surprised that they do. Because I do get phone calls from most of these
Sure.
organizations.
Sure.
So, but it doesn't, anybody, if you know a ramp builder, yeah, you can just pass the word on.
Yeah.
And as far as volunteers, I mean, we're retired, we don't work weekends, so it's Monday through Friday. And like I say, we work with anywhere from 8 to 10 people up to maybe 15, 16 guys at a time. So it gets a little crowded at times, but like we mentioned, Art and I did earlier, age is creeping up on all of us. So when we do get younger people that are a little more physical, I've had grandsons, so has Art, that have worked with us in the summertime.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a treat when you get them guys.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, if somebody wanted to volunteer and work with us, we wouldn't tell them no.
Yeah.
And sometimes, we are, standing around a little bit and, not everybody can be as busy at the same time. But by the same token, I don't discourage people who want to be a help. So,
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you guys.
And
Go ahead. If you had
We
anything else to
never,
add.
we never turn any help down.
Oh, no.
If people, when we have a ramp to build, we call everybody, and if you can come, that's fine.
Right.
If you're busy, if you're on vacation, if you're
Right.
sick, we never require anybody to be there.
no, I tell everybody we don't keep attendance.
Yeah.
No,
That's good.
no,
So if you can come, that's great, and if you can't,
Right.
it's not a big deal.
right.
We have a lot of people who farm in the fall and the spring, and they're tied up. We have
Yeah.
a lot of people who go on vacations.
And we've had people who've had health problems, but they never ever go away. I tell people all the time, they said, well, I can't help no more. I said, well, there's only one way you get out of the ramp builders. And I'm not going to tell you what it is. One of your congregants just left us last year.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the ramp builders were all pallbearers for him.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. What a
That's the only way you get out of it. Yeah. The
ramp builders
benefits,
for life. I love that. Yeah.
The benefit package isn't fantastic, but
That's incredible.
yeah.
Well, thank you guys so much. I hope you've enjoyed your time with
yeah.
us today.
Oh, yeah.
I've enjoyed this so much.
Thank you.
It's been great. Thank you for all that you do. If you of course if you want to support the ramp builders, please, if you know a ramp builder, thank them. And if you are in need of that, of course, you can you can contact our church. You can contact your healthcare providers. And Art, Ed, thank you guys so much. This has been a joy. God bless you guys on your year building. And we just hope and pray for the best for you guys. And thank you so much for all that you do.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us with Art and Ed and the Ramp Builders today. We'll see you next time on the We're Here podcast.